The latest development is now engineers working for Elon Musk will be visiting the FAA's Air Traffic Control Command Center on Monday. That, plus these firings, are truly uncharted territory for the Federal Aviation Administration, which oversees an air travel system that is stressed to the max right now. Remember, the FAA's air traffic control equipment is aging, and the system that delivers mandatory pilot safety alerts failed just days after that crash that killed 67 people over Washington, D.C. Hasn't even been 3 weeks since that crash, and DOJ has had its eye on the FAA ever since. Now the concern is that when these federal workers return from the long weekend on Tuesday, they could be barred from FAA facilities. The workers impacted here are members of a union called PASS. That is the Professional Aviation Safety Specialist Union, part of the AFL-CIO. Union President Dave Sparrow tells me between 200 and 300 FAA workers started receiving firing notices from the Trump administration late on Friday. These are the workers who help maintain the critical infrastructure that keeps the air traffic control system operating. He says not only were these workers fired without cause, but that this was hardly a surgical move by the Trump administration that is dangerous to public safety and especially unconscionable in the aftermath of the crashes that have been grabbing headlines over the last month. It's important to note here that these are probationary employees, meaning they've been on the job for less than a year. So the next generation of FAA employees at an agency that's had a hard time keeping up with retirements and attrition. So far, the FAA has not returned my request for comment, but we do know this from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who announced the visit by Musk's team. He posted on X that President Trump is ordering a new air traffic control system and called for help not just from private industry, but any high-tech American developer in overhauling the FAA. Pretty stunning images here, Brianna, from Toronto Pearson International Airport. It looks like this crash involved a Delta flight operated by regional airline Endeavor Air, Delta 4819, according to the flight tracking data from FlightAware and Flight Radar 24, left Minneapolis around 11:34 Central Time, a little bit late. Arrived in Toronto Pearson 12:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so a little more than an hour ago. The weather at Toronto Pearson is a bit challenging, and right now, according to the notice to pilots, all of the runways at Toronto Pearson, Lester B. Pearson International Airport are closed because of this incident. Let's just check the weather here really quick on ForeFlight. From 25 minutes ago, winds out of the west at 27 knots, gusting to 35 knots. You can see the blowing snow there. So a pretty big challenge for pilots. Landing looks like to the southwest, according to the flight tracking data, with a bit of a crosswind. Big question here, of course, will be the conditions. As the NTSB equivalent in Canada, the Canadian Transportation Safety Board, will look at this. Obviously, the fuselage is upside down. That's the body of the airplane. We're looking now at the left side of the aircraft. This is a CRJ 900, a Canadair Regional Jet 900 in the configuration for Delta Airlines, seats about 70 to 76 people. And you can see the crash fire rescue crews there. Clearly, they had to be dispatched to this crash. Hats off to them. Good job. It looks like they did a nice job of containing what may be a bit of a fire here. I'm seeing a bit of smoke. Can't quite tell if that is the exhaust of from one of the crash fire rescue trucks. You can see another one coming in now. Of course, very challenging conditions there with the wind and the snow. Still trying to get a little bit more information here from Delta Airlines about what may have caused this. But we do at least know from the airport that all people on board, all souls in the aviation parlance, have been accounted for. And that is especially good news after the tremendous, unprecedented accident after accident involving commercial and private jets here in the United States. Of course, this is right over the border, and there will no doubt be American help to try and figure out what went wrong here, seeing as though this flight left the continental U.S., according to the flight tracking data, left Minneapolis earlier this morning or afternoon, East Coast time. Still appears to be some fire response on the scene there. I just counted at least 3 fire trucks off the frame to the left in this live feed from CTV. Also a foam truck there on the left that is so critical to fighting aircraft fires, which are so different than fighting a normal house or building fire, you have to put out the intense heat of burning jet fuel. And it does look like there is some singeing there. You can see on the top of the screen, obscured a bit by the truck there. That's the bottom of the fuselage. It looks like there was at least a little bit of a fire there, and then also a little bit of a fire there in the tail of the plane, the right side of the screen, which is the back left side of the fuselage, and the tail-mounted engines there on the CRJ 900. So, of course, a lot still developing here by the moment, and we are getting more information in all the time. The spot-shadowed image there shows a bit further away what is the scene of this crash. That is the fuselage there. You're looking a bit down the nose. It doesn't look like much. And so now the question will be, where is the debris field? Where are the wings? And where is the tail? And this is something that investigators will look at very closely as they piece together exactly what went wrong here. Right now, way too soon to speculate on any sort of a cause. But you can see the windsock there at full mast. That is a pretty strong and stiff wind there.
The Trump administration is firing hundreds of FAA employees with probationary status. That includes critical air traffic control employees. Just 19 days after a military helicopter crashed into a commercial airliner, killing everyone on board. Joining us now, National President at the Professional Aviation Safety Specialist, AFL-CIO, David Spiro. David, thanks for joining us. Who are these folks that have been laid off?
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me on. So a little bit about PASS. We're a federal employees union. We represent about 11,000 FAA employees, and they are in the Air Traffic Organization and the Aviation Safety Organization for FAA. So a lot of these folks that we're talking about support a couple of the key roles in FAA, which is for us, which are the technicians that maintain the air traffic control system and the aviation safety inspectors who oversee the air carrier system, make sure that they're following all the regulations under 14 CFR and, of course, under general aviation. So these folks that we're talking about, a lot of them, let's say the technical workforce, for example, these folks maintain the physical infrastructure. So maintenance mechanics out there who are making sure that a building roof doesn't leak, the grass is cut, everything around that building isn't falling in so that the technicians can maintain the electronics. Over in the aviation safety world, we talk about aviation safety assistants, folks that do a lot of the paperwork and background work for inspectors, so they're not having to spend their time and the skill of their trade doing all of that sort of work. And then another group of folks that we're talking about are aeronautical folks that develop charts and maps and provide products for air traffic control, information specialists, provide products for air traffic control, provide products for industry to make it more efficient and more effective.
Are these people expendable?
No, absolutely not. And I think that's something that I think has to be fleshed out a little bit. Everybody that has a role in the FAA is critical to accomplishing the mission, to assure that these folks that are on the front line, that are involved in safety in flight type of work, are able to focus on that and not have to look over their shoulder instead of looking out the window. So these are the folks that make everything happen. They grind the gears. So the rest of us that are engaged in aviation safety can make sure that all of that is happening without a skip.
There was some reporting in the past couple of weeks that Elon Musk and Doge got a plug-in to the air traffic control system and that they want to make some upgrades to it. It is an old system that is in desperate need, from reporting that we've heard for years, for a system upgrade, for a technological upgrade. What is there, in your assessment of things, what needs to change to make the FAA better? And are you seeing, put these layoffs aside, are you seeing any moves made to make it function better, to make it safer?
So the air traffic control system in the United States is always in need of upgrade. Its technology moves quickly, but the FAA has not been funded in a way to allow them to complete that task at any given time. So there's plenty of money in the Aviation Trust Fund that Congress is not releasing. But if the White House is serious about upgrading the airspace system, then they need to put in a budget item to allow FAA to ask for the money to make that happen, regardless of who is making an assessment and what sorts of solutions they want to come up with. The money's got to be there. And I'll say this, you have to do it in a thoughtful way. You can't introduce risk into the national airspace system. There's no way you can ever just take a shot at it and go, let's try this. It's too fragile. It's robust, but it's fragile at the same time. And we always talk about lining up those holes of the Swiss cheese, and that would be an enormous hole in that piece of Swiss cheese.
Yeah, it's fragile, and people are worried about flying right now, especially after what happened in D.C. I'm thinking back to something that Vice President Vance said after the D.C. incident. Donald Trump came out and blamed it on DEI before any of the investigation was done, and Vance came out, I guess in order to buttress this claim, he said that part of the issue is that DEI would make it harder for even the air traffic controllers to work because the support staff below those controllers might not be qualified for the jobs. They offered some evidence of this that was not backed up by any facts. But
guys, what we're seeing here, just a quick breaking story. Sources, at least some, are saying Trump's at fault here. I'm one of those people. I'm officially blaming Trump. You can officially blame Trump too. But let's be clear. The timing is not coincidental, in my personal opinion, because what we're seeing is all these reports of Trump cutting FAA funding and/or firing people. And when he first came in, he got rid of some of the people responsible for flight safety, and he complained about it all being DEI and that Trump was going to stop the DEI. And the planes are going to be safer than ever. And since then, guy, I can't even... How many? Write in the comments if you know exactly how many planes have crashed. This wasn't happening under President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. It wasn't happening under President Barack Obama. It wasn't even happening under the first Trump administration like it is now. Because Trump has gone even more insane. Even the original Trump was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't fire all the flight safety people. I know I'm a nut job, but somebody in the room was like, sir, can't you do something less destructive? We'll give you your Twitter account. You can call a Democrat some slur and then move on. And he was like, okay. Now this time they're going full on. And all of this is the result of MAGA world philosophy.